Boud1ca, the warrior queen. She's a folk hero in the modern day, but in Roman Britain, she wreaks havoc. Some writers say that she draws inspiration from what the Germans did in the Teutoburg forest. She too slaughters every Roman who crosses her path. She leads a massive army on the rampage, laying waste to whole towns. And in the capital, Camulodunum, now called Colchester, nothing at all is spared.
Boud1ca had her men set the temple on fire. For the people defending the temple, they just faced one last desperate choice. They could suffocate or burn inside, or run outside to be slaughtered by the Britons. Colchester was wiped off the map. When archaeologists dig down to that level, there's simply a layer of ash.
The 3 Roman legions stationed in Britain are all several weeks' march away, on the frontiers. So Boud1ca's warriors are virtually unopposed.
Most of the time, fear keeps people down. And that means that rebellion, when it comes, often takes the Romans by surprise. That means rebellions can start well, but then the Romans hit back.
A force is sent to deal with the rebellion. It comprises some 10,000 troops, most of the Roman soldiers in Britain. But it's heavily outnumbered by Boud1ca's army. She commands perhaps 80,000 warriors.
When the Iceni and the Romans finally met in pitched battle, it was in a landscape very like this, a horseshoe-shaped valley, with the Romans at the top of the valley and the Iceni down at the entrance. And what happened was then one of the most decisive battles in British history.
As the 2 forces line up against each other, the commanders read the landscape very differently.
Boud1ca was confident she could win. She outnumbered the Romans and she had them bottled up in this valley. She was so confident the non-combatants, women, children, old people, were ranged at the entrance to the valley to watch the battle. But the Roman commander had chosen the ground, and he'd chosen carefully.
Boud1ca thinks he's backed into a corner. He sees that the high sloping walls of the valley and the woods to his back actually offer protection. They even the odds.
With impenetrable ground like this, behind them and on their flanks, the Romans would have known that there was no way the Britons were going to be able to get around them. In particular, the British chariots couldn't have operated in country like this. So that the Romans would have deployed from one side of the valley to the other, 8 ranks deep, probably stretching for a mile altogether, a wall of steel.
The British had more people, but the narrowness of the valley means that the 2 front lines are of equal length. What follows is a clash not just of armies, but of cultures. The disciplined Roman war machine confronted by the fury of the tribesmen.
As they came up the slope towards the Roman line at the head of the valley, the first thing that would have confronted them would have been a great rain of armour-piercing javelins coming out of the sky upon them, designed to bore through a shield and skewer the man behind it.
In hand-to-hand combat, the Britons fight as individuals, but the Romans maneuver into a series of wedge formations.
And then the Roman legionaries draw their gladii.
The line resembles the blade of a saw, with the toughest fighters at each point.
And they charge forwards, and the British are confronted by battering shields and the gladii stabbing forwards and upwards into the abdomen. And as this onslaught confronts them, panic begins to spread down the British line. The British army begins to falter and fall back, and the rout begins to gather momentum.
The entire British force is wiped out. It's said that Boud1ca commits suicide. The Romans have taken just hours to achieve their victory, but they spend weeks exacting their revenge.
After their victory, the Roman army went on the rampage. They imposed a policy of fire and sword on the British landscape, which meant they killed every living thing and they destroyed every piece of property.